Welcome to the C-Suite podcast that we're producing from Money20 Europe here in Amsterdam. I'm Graham Barrett, and together with Debbie West, we will be talking to a number of the speakers and attendees here at the conference.
We're producing this show in partnership with Remote, the global HR platform and sponsor at Money20, and we really hope you enjoy these conversations, which should give you some insight into the hot topics for discussion here at the event.
Pleased to say I'm now joined by Monika, Liikamaa, who is co-CEO and co-founder at Enfuce. I've got that right, yeah?
Yes, awesome, and thank you for having me.
No, not at all. It's great to see you. Now, tell us about Enfuce, because you co-funded Enfuce with Denise, and you, Denise Johansson. So what were the challenges of starting what is now a highly successful payments business within a very male-dominated industry?
Yeah, I do get that question a lot, and I'm always thinking, like, what's the answer? I never founded a fintech, and I never founded a startup. Mm-hmm. I used to be a developer in the past millennium, okay. And then I was a bank CIO and the banking industry, and then I was building card processors, and I think it was like in 2015, I was like, oh God, how hard can this be? Why are everyone else sucking and everything's taking so long? I'll just fix it myself. And then I called my former colleague to be co-founder, Denise, and I was like, shouldn't we? And she was like, yes, what? So I think she was a bit like ready to go. And then she was like, shouldn't we just build a company that's processing better, faster, and globally scalable? And because of that, we needed to start a company. And because of that, we needed to start hiring people. So as I've been always in very male-dominated environments, I don't think about it that much. But what I do know is that there is also a challenge with us women. Like it is also us. We have a tendency to put ceilings on ourselves because we think that's how it should be. Like it's a cultural thing, and that's why I always look to the mothers also to change the game. I have 2 daughters and 2 sons, and I say if you work hard, you can do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we've been doing and continue to do. Now
let's talk about Money20 a little bit. This is where we are here today. You've got a few announcements, I believe, at the event. Can you tell us some of those? Yeah,
it's amazing. We've been actually joining Money20 since 2017 when it was in Copenhagen, and then it expanded. So we started off with a startup booth made of plywood, a small one, and now it's a little bit bigger here. And yesterday we announced our collaboration with Swile, so a French employee benefits company. It's been amazing to start working with them and expanding in Europe. And then today we are happy to announce a collaboration with AllPay. Okay. So with AllPay we help them issue the cards, and of course we use their services when it comes to card manufacturing, and really targeting also like governmental programs and helping the so-called non-banks to get good financial services.
So this is a key part of growing the business, is it? All these various partnerships?
Yes, definitely. I think it's the same. Like we have 3 things of like the key assets of Enfuce are of course tech. It's a tangible asset, and we were the first one in the world to put issuing in a public cloud, not because I wanted to do it, just because that's the only way to scale globally. Mm-hmm. And today that's the only way to do it. But in 2016 people were calling me crazy. But then people, a key asset, and then the processes. So with those 3 in combination with all our partners, we can really do more good than not, and I think that's one of the reasons why I founded Enfuce. I really want to be the best at something and work with people that are like-minded.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're talking a lot about people there, and you mentioned founding the business, then obviously you need to recruit talent. How do you do that? How do you find the best talent out there, and how do you keep them once you've got them?
Yeah, that is a big challenge. And when we started Enfuce, the first, I would say, 20 people I knew from before. Okay. So like a challenge came up, I'm like, we need this, I'll call that. But then after a while, you run out of people to call, and then you need to start recruiting. And that is the biggest challenge we have, to really nail down who we are in a way that it's a fit. So I remember when I was studying and I wrote this, read the book about that Peter Drucker said, and then was like, culture eats strategy for breakfast, and I was like, yeah, it makes no sense. And now it makes.
You get it.
Yeah, no, I get it. So that's a big challenge, and it continues to be, because every time we think we nailed it, the company has changed and evolved, and whatever we thought works, it's become obsolete. Mm-hmm. So what we've done, as we are a financial institution all over, and we talk about people's money and data, we have a lot of governing policies, and they are made simple enough for every people to understand. So what are important and what are things we can't tolerate. And from that, as we grow, we attract better talent. And I think great people want to work with great people. And I think that's also, so understanding that it's also okay for people to move on. I think sometimes people, especially in the Finnish culture, it's like if you leave, it somehow feels like you failed, but that's not true. You brought something to the table, you definitely learned, and it's fine to move on.
Yeah, it's not a personal slight, no.
Exactly, and I think that's the challenge. And when you're a founder and a CEO, you look at it from a different perspective, and I think that's only a founder CEO can understand that perspective. And I get it, but it's a hard thing to translate into every people, because they see what they see, and that's how it's supposed to be. But I need to look at it from a much bigger, and I'm so fortunate to have my co-founder Denise, because I would probably have to kill people already by now.
She keeps you calm.
Yeah, she's responsible for our people operations, because she's younger than me. She has more patience.
Yeah. Well, it sounds brilliant. I mean, thanks for taking us through the Enfuce story. I know you've got great plans for Future Money 2020, so hopefully we'll speak to you again.
Yeah, and thank you also for remote. I mean, like you are a very key enablement piece for us as we've grown in multiple countries. So really happy to have that collaboration, and it makes it very easy to scale up.
Yeah.
And especially in these days, I remember when COVID hit, and I was like, shit, what happens now? But we were already built for remote. And then when we started attracting then good talent in other parts of Europe, it's been an easy way to onboarding, because setting up legal entities and hiring and firing,
it's not easy, is it?
No, it's not easy. And it's not my core business. Yeah. So I like partnering up with people who take that as a core business.
Yeah, well, that's excellent news. Well, Monika, Liikamaa, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Well, I'm delighted to be speaking with Yaacov Martin, who is CEO at the Jifiti Group. So Yaacov, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So what do you see as the key talking points at this year's Money 2020?
It's interesting. We've seen a lot of talk about regulation. Regulations are coming in all sorts of areas that are adjacent or even at the core of finance and fintech. So there's a lot of talk around these regulations. I would also say, though, that there's been quite a bit of talk about traditional banks that are taking some broad steps and strides. And while I think for many, many years they were kind of on the fence, looking at some of the fintechs eating their lunch, and other areas that they were contemplating as to whether or not they should step into, I think we're finally at a stage where they understand the value they bring to the market and willing and able to take the step towards those areas.
Oh, that's interesting. So tell us about Jifiti and how you fit into the payments landscape.
So Jifiti is an enabler for banks and financial institutions in the world of embedded lending. Our philosophy is actually quite simple and straightforward. We believe that regulated banks and financial institutions have tremendous value to bring, both in terms of their regulatory status, their ability to weather downturns of the economy, and frankly also their effective and efficient cost of capital. So they're in a position where their actual lending activity is tremendously beneficial, and where they've historically struggled was making it accessible. Sometimes they struggle in making it accessible even within the four walls of the bank, but definitely when they want to extend outside of the bank's environment, there it becomes very tricky, and that's what we do together with them.
Yeah, excellent. So how is embedded lending empowering banks to become more customer-centric?
So the mission that we've stated, that we believe we share with many of our clients and partners, is making these financial products accessible when and where it matters most. And when and where it matters most is often outside of the four walls of the bank. It's when you're about to make a very meaningful transaction or contemplating a transaction. And these can be in the world of retail, but not only in the world of retail. This can be in service, various types of services, extending your education, various types of medical procedures, home renovation. That is where we want to make sure that a customer or a small business has access to the most appropriate and competitive and responsible loan product. And this is what we're here to do together with our banks.
Yeah, brilliant. So tell us a little bit about your workforce. How do you recruit and retain the best talent for Jifiti?
Yeah. I believe it begins and ends with purpose. So when the purpose is very, very clear, generally we find that people are able to stick with it even through the tougher times. The moment we start diluting or defocusing the purpose, I think that's when we start encountering the problems of churn or lack of motivation. Now, I think that this extends even beyond just the technical retention of a quality workforce. It actually extends to our partners as well. Part of what we try to do in our partnerships with banks and financial institutions is to have a very, very clear division of responsibilities and therefore clear division of purpose, so that the banks and their teams can focus on what they know how to do best and not try to extend themselves into areas that they shouldn't be focusing on, and vice versa for ourselves. And that way you keep your workforce very focused and motivated with a very clear purpose that they're working towards.
And so what do you think the future holds for Jifiti?
So what we've seen in the last few months, and we actually see growing, is the sense of partnership. We have found many different types of organizations in the financial services areas, core banking, who we've worked with so well that the partnership has become so deep we almost view ourselves sometimes as one team. Being able to offer an end-to-end solution, selling together, ideation that comes with the collaboration of these two groups, and really creating almost a joint roadmap. I think that's where we're going to see a lot of success over the next few months and actually, frankly, a few years.
Yeah, great. I love that concept of partnership. That sounds great. This has been super. Yaacov, Martin, thanks so much for speaking with me.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm here with Jennifer Parker, who is the Chief Commercial Officer at Convera. Jennifer, lovely to see you here at Money 2020.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. It's good to see you as well.
Yeah, no, great. And I just want to talk about the panel that you're moderating here at Money 2020. It's all about cross-border payments, isn't it? Can you give us maybe a little bit of a sneak preview of that session?
Yeah, definitely. Really exciting panel that we'll have tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to joining the other leaders there. The key topics that we'll be discussing really is cross-border payments and the rapid growth that we're experiencing and witnessing in the space. And we're finding that this is really due to digital innovation and personalized services that's reshaping the sector as we see it. In Convera's recent FinTech 2025 report that was released just yesterday, we predict that cross-border payments volumes are estimated to reach 290 trillion by 2030. So really excited again and looking forward to having the discussion with the other panelists tomorrow.
Sure. Now, you mentioned that report that you've just released and some of those key findings. What are the implications then, do you think, of those findings?
Yeah, so this report is a crucial resource that really delves into the trends propelling fintech forward. And from the surge in digital currencies to the adoption of open banking frameworks, it offers actionable insights for businesses and financial institutions aiming to navigate the complexities of rapidly evolving market and harness the opportunities presented by these technology advancements. Some key findings that are included in the report that you can find is that cross-border payments revenues predicted to reach 280 billion by 2030. That's an increase of almost 50% at 45%, so lots of growth there. There's predictions around about almost 20% growth, so 19% average annual growth growth, specifically in the B2B e-commerce by 2030. As more and more businesses are moving online, we continue to see that. And we see that 86% of businesses with revenues between $500 million and $1 billion have adopted real-time payments. So real-time payments here at Money2020 are going to be a hot topic, obviously continue to be a hot topic as that environment continues to evolve. And then lastly, 745 million is the number expected in B2B cross-border transactions on blockchain by 2025. So we anticipate seeing that blockchain integration really happen and evolve over the next year or so.
Yeah, some real insights in that report, as you say, so well worth checking out. Now, let's just move on to talk about talent recruitment, because that's an ongoing challenge, isn't it, in the fintech industry. How do you approach that at Convera?
Yeah, so I'd say both the recruiting as well as retaining talent continue to be challenging, and it really is a balancing act when it comes to sourcing talent. I really challenge my teams to look at different channels, definitely their own networks tap into that, but really look outside of their networks and tap into all the different channels. Because I'd like for us in particular to continue to break the barriers to bring diversity and inclusive efforts forward. I truly believe diversity is essential to growth and development, and it's important to take the time to create diverse workforce that looks like the globe we serve, the world that we serve. And so I really want to create this environment where everyone feels heard and included, and so that's where I challenge my teams to really look at. But it is challenging, it's a balancing act, and it's really important that we really tap into taking the extra step to really look for the talent that's the right fit for the company.
Absolutely. Now, we're talking a lot today as well about distributed workforces. What are the unique challenges that presents, and how do you kind of create alignment and connection between teams and people across that network?
Yeah, so I like to think of a global workforce as really, thinking globally, acting global in strategy, and then local in execution. There's definitely some nuance that exists within local markets, within local regions, and so I think of us building out our strategy on that global basis again, but then really bringing it down and that double click on a local execution. Anything from best practice sharing that happens when you link up peer-to-peer mentorship, as you think about forums that you can have, change ambassadors that we have within the organization. That's how I think of it. And I think it's really, really important to have strong communication strategy, because as you think you've got one person, in Sydney and another that might be in Rome, Italy, it's really important that they get the same messaging down throughout the organization as we look to really serve our clients across the globe. And then lastly, it's important, I think, to really create shared experiences while you can. That creates culture for the teams, and that's easier to do on the local level again, so I challenge my leaders to really think of that in that way. And having a distributed workforce, as you mentioned, does create a challenge, but it's also really rewarding. I encourage my teams to really be authentic and bring their life experiences to the office, as it can let you really get creative, right? Be bold, lean in, think of new solutions, new ways to serve our clients, and share those back and have that continuous feedback loop there. So, being willing to lean in and being willing to learn from my team as I get in the field and get to know our clients has really been helpful in figuring out the best way to tackle those challenges that exist.
Okay, excellent. Just finish up by telling me a bit more about Convera then, and what's happening next. What are the priorities over the next few years maybe? Yeah,
sure. So we really have a multi-year plan at Convera to double the size of our business. So ambitious, aggressive, but over time we will help tens of thousands of businesses really grow with confidence. We've embarked on our digital transformation journey since becoming Convera back in 2021, and we're driven by tech-led solutions. So many have seen, over the last few years, we've become a cloud-based system after completing a full migration to AWS. Things like that, and investment in technology to really bring us forward will be what's in plans for us as we look to serve clients in the future and help them with their ambitious growth goals as well.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. That is certainly ambitious growth. Jennifer Parker, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, pleased to say I'm now joined by Nirav Patel, who is the CEO of Andaria.
Thank you for having me again. Pleasure to be on the podcast.
It's always good to see you, always good to hear your thoughts. So let's start with that. Tell me about your thoughts about this year's Money 2020. You've had a good walk around. What's going on?
It's great. I think the first thing to say, it's probably double the size it was last year. That's probably a testament to the times in terms of innovation within the space. I think the clear theme coming through is embedded. We've obviously been waving that flag for a while now. So nice to see it being ratified by the rest of the industry, if you like. But I think always keen to get a feel for how the room is moving in terms of innovation. I think this gives an opportunity, not only what is happening from an innovation standpoint, but actually who's working with who. You kind of get a bit of a feel for it. So it's the insider's knowledge on payments, which is always nice.
Yeah. Well, listen, we've spoken a lot about embedded finance, haven't we, over the last year or so. So how has the space evolved? Because it's moving so quickly, isn't it? What status do you think it's at the moment?
I'm still going to say tip of the iceberg.
Right, okay.
I don't think we've really got into the crux of it yet. I think the challenge will always be the technology integration piece, and I think that's now starting to be narrowed, if you like. And what I mean by that is a lot of it was API driven, and now the theme of SDKs, which is a software development kit, seems to be coming up in the room. So again, just getting a feel for what our potential competition is doing, how the tech's evolving. So we're, again, still at the cusp. The nice thing is that it's not only payments now, there's insurance firms within the embedded space. Wealth is another one that's coming kind of strong and fast, and naturally lending as well. So you're seeing that ecosystem really start blending together. I think if you give that another year or so, you may see some consolidation in the space in respect of payments firms entering the insurance embedded space and vice versa. But again, very, very, very exciting space.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask, I mean, are you concerned that it's becoming a competitive space, or do you think you've got that foothold and that gives you that kind of security? If you like?
I think I've said this before, there is an opportunity, the more competition there is, the more mainstream this becomes. If you look at the overall potential market size, we're talking, I think, 30 trillion over 10 years. There's plenty of room for competition. And I think the nice thing is that each do their bit with their nuance or their niche, which is nice. So yes, there's always crossover, and there will be. It doesn't worry me because I still feel we've got a nice USP with a very specific target base, and I think we understand that target base very well. So not concerned, and actually inviting more of it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Now give me an update on where you guys are at the moment. You all seem to be talking about recent and new partnerships. What's going on at present?
So it's football.
Football, yeah. We've got the Euros coming up, so
we have. So it's great timing. So it's, again, we were at the Football Innovation Forum recently, really explained our solution to that market, which is a very well-structured crowd, and ultimately they lapped it up, which is great. So again, it's a ratification of what we're doing. I think just the introductions from just being in that room with people that are connected in that space was very, very helpful. We're still continuing our long discussions with some of those outstanding football clubs that we've spoken about in previous discussions, so they're moving along nicely. I think that sets us up very nicely for what's going to come next season. Lots of work still to be done, but very exciting. We're also not solely limiting ourselves to football, so we've just onboarded a Web3 metaverse platform. They go live in the next few days. I believe it's the next few days, so that watch this space there. And also insurance, funnily enough. So we've got an insurance company now on the books offering them an embedded payment solution downstream to their clients. So again, lots of exciting things happening. It's just nice to have what's been quite a journey for us and now really being ratified.
Talk to me as well about recruiting talent, because obviously you just talked about expanding the company, growing the company. How do you find and retain the best talent for the business?
It's a challenge. I'll be really honest with you. I think the stat I read recently, so in kind of this generation, if you like, the average individual will go through something like 11 roles.
Is that right?
So I think transition within roles is expected. I think that comes as part of the journey now. So you can't expect to potentially have your employee base with you for that prolonged period of time. So that means you have to slightly change your dynamics and you change your approach. It's not easy. I think it's about finding good partners on the ground, so be that recruitment consultant or platforms such as Remote. I think they can all do a very kind of helpful job from our standpoint. Again, if you look at our talent pool and the way we're structured, we have a big cohort based out of Malta. If you look at that, it's 500,000 population. Again, you're great talent pool, but very limited in terms of who you can go and speak to. But it's something that having the right partners is the key, I think.
Yeah. And just one final question about what's exciting you personally at the minute. Obviously, we've got the new season coming up. Yep. Anything else that is exciting you?
I think just the pace at which the acceptance of embedded finance is really being taken on board outside of the industry. I think a lot of it used to get lost in a bit of terminology, and I think for us, especially being able to bridge almost the comms gap, if you like, and not kind of just dropping acronyms in there. Yeah. And then the other side really understanding it. So I think that whole simplicity piece, and we're really pushing on that, just to keep it simple, to the point, so it's well structured. And the nice thing is they're getting it. Again, I keep saying the word, it's being ratified, but it absolutely is. So it's a really exciting time to be an Andarian, as they say. Yep. Lots of exciting things happening, and I'd say just watch this space.
Watch this space. Well, yeah, we enjoy speaking to you. Hopefully we'll catch up again at a future event. Nirav, Patel, thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm delighted to be speaking today with Charles Damen, who's Chief Product Officer of Token.io. Welcome to the podcast, Charles.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Well, open banking and pay by bank are hot topics at this year's Money 2020. So why is that, and where does Token fit in with that?
Yeah, so pay by bank is a phenomenon that has started a couple of years ago. It started in 2019. And what you see is that it has become more and more of a mainstream payment method. Mm-hmm. So more and more merchants start to realize that it's a really good alternative to other forms of payments, such as cards, for example. So, and we see that expressed through lots of different types of applications. So now you can use Pay by Bank, for example, to pay off your credit card bill. And it's a really natural way to pay off, your credit on your credit card through your bank account instead of using a card for that. Other types of applications and services that we see now is the loading of an investment account, for example, that you can really do through Pay by Bank, or buying goods or services. A lot of second-hand cars, for example, that you buy through those online retailers are now bought through Pay by Bank instead of using a card. So there are lots of different types of applications that you start to see now. So the payment method is maturing and is going to be used across a lot more applications. And it drives a lot of benefits for merchants. It's a lower cost of processing, it's a really good user experience, it's really secure because every transaction has a strong customer authentication, so the use of your Face ID or your Touch ID, for example, for every transaction. And it's really speedy. You pay straight from your bank account, and it also means that the consumer is in control. They can see immediately when they make their payment what their balance is, and after they have made their payment what their balance is. So you don't see that delay of transaction coming through the next day, for example.
And you're speaking tomorrow about tackling account-to-account payments. So can you give us a little preview of what you're talking about, and particularly what you'd like your audience to remember?
Yeah, so perhaps first, the way we help, because Pay by Bank is a form of payment, and the way we help our customers to enable that payment and drive that acceptance for our merchants is through an integration. So customers can integrate to our platform and create a white label Pay by Bank offering. So we work with a lot of payment providers, lots of banks and PSPs that can integrate, and tech companies that can integrate Pay by Bank into their offering, and then make it really easy to distribute it to their merchants, because merchants are typically already integrated to those PSPs, and it just becomes an additional payment method that they can add in their checkout. Now, tomorrow we will be talking with UK Finance and the payment systems regulator in particular about the evolution of Pay by Bank, which is, and we see this across the world, this is something called commercial variable recurring payments. And basically it is a new form of paying through Pay by Bank, enabling both a one-click checkout experience as well as the ability to make a recurring payment, and those for fixed or variable amounts. So you can start to see the type of applications that you do through a lot of e-commerce sites, such as a one-click checkout. You can do the subscription models that you see. You can do for the streaming services, for example. You can also start to see the type of installment payments, like you do for example, certain buy now, pay later type payment methods. Yeah. And the reason why this is such a transformative way of paying is that instead of making it just available, now the banks are coming in the mix. It's what we call a premium service. So the banks have an ability also to monetize this form of payment. So now what we see is that in Brazil, there's an account-to-account payment method called PIX. It's going really, really well. Billions of transactions are going through this form of payment. And in Brazil, they have already introduced this form of payment. And what we would like to, and what we're discussing tomorrow, is how can we make sure that the UK keeps its lead, so to say. And that means that both banks, companies like us at PISPs, and the regulators need to work together to enable this and to really launch this across customers, so both merchants and consumers.
That sounds like a really flexible solution as well, and a great case study. So thinking about Token.io, we understand you've got a remote workforce. So can you tell us what it's like to lead a remote-first product team at a fast-growing fintech?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So yeah, we've in my team of people in different locations across the world, at different time zones, and it creates a number of different advantages. On the one hand, you can create a really diverse workforce. There's a real benefit of using the different time zones. So sometimes, it means sometimes that the time you have may be a little bit limited. On the other hand, where you're all together at the same time. Yeah. That said, there's a lot of flexibility because, of course, if you use those time zones, you can almost create a 24-hour cycle, so to say. So the couple of advantages that we really see is a really diverse workforce that you can create. You can make use of the time zones. And what we do, because we're in product, we like to whiteboard, we like to also be together, be creative and create some really cool new features and products, is what we do in order. It's on a quarterly basis. We create offsites where we all come together and really work as a team in one location. So we have both the benefit of being together as well as remote.
Yeah. And so lastly, I'd just like to ask, what will be key to your continued success, and what are your plans for the next few years?
So we believe that Pay by Bank can really become and is already becoming a global phenomenon. So we see markets like India, Brazil, in Europe, it's really becoming a mainstream form of payment. We believe that this will expand to other markets, in particular the US, for example, which is by far the largest e-commerce market in the world. Token already has a base in the US, so we think that we can really expand this payment method, make it a global phenomenon, and make it a really easy way to pay for consumers, driving benefits for merchants through a lower cost of processing, as well as great conversion. So yeah, really keen to drive this forward over the next coming years.
Excellent, that sounds really exciting. Well, Charles Damen, thanks so much for speaking to us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm here with Lynda Strutton, who is the Chief Operating Officer at Tribe Payments. Lynda, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm really good. Yeah, I'm really enjoying Money 2020. Yeah, there's really real good buzz around the place.
Yes.
Tell me about Tribe Payments. What are you guys all about?
So, Tribe are a bit of an individual business, actually. People keep asking me, who your competitors are. And of course, we have lots of competitors, but no one that does quite what we do in the payment space.
Yeah, you're pretty unique, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that's unique about us is we operate throughout the payment stack. So when our founder was creating Tribe, he looked at it really differently because he's not from a payments background. So he didn't have issuing experience or acquiring experience. He really he built websites and gaming sites, and he needed good payment technology, but really struggled to get what he needed in the time that he needed it. So he decided, I'm going to start building this myself.
Right.
So he followed the payment transaction. So he started looking at gateways and how the payment processing happens and issuing and so on, and he started to actually build this technology himself. they started to use it internally for the business, but quite quickly found that it was appealing to others.
Right.
And that's when Try was born. So yeah, we're just over 5 years old, 5.5 years old. And it's been pretty exciting time. So we operate in the acquiring, issuing and wallet space, but really offering lots of value-added services wrapping around those.
And you've been busy personally, haven't you? You've delivered a session on, what was it, hyper-personalization and using data effectively, is that right?
Yeah, and there's a buzzword, right? Hyper-personalization. But I guess the reason that I was quite passionate about doing that particular topic is there's a lot of buzzwords in our industry.
Yeah. Well, tell me what it means to start
exactly.
with. Yeah.
So hyper-personalization, I was kind of trying to work out, is it like, people keep saying super cool or super good rather than just cool or good? And is it really just the same as personalization, but we're getting a bit excited about it?
Right, yeah.
But it's actually not. So, like I said in the talk this morning, I think personalization is knowing what you like because you've done it before, right? And hyper-personalization is using more real-time data to understand and predict the future.
Right.
So using extensive data pools to say, okay, these are the things that you would like, much like Spotify and Netflix and the streaming channels, and actually all the social media channels and lots of other things that are in our daily lives.
Kind of instinctive, intuitive, know what you want.
Yeah, exactly. And payments just is really behind in that way. So retail has made that shift, but payments somewhat are behind.
Yeah.
Usually we're in front of things. So I find that quite interesting.
Yeah, okay. And I understand you spoke a lot about Gen Z as well in that, because obviously anything that you develop, you'd hope it's for the future generations and it's for the generations who are actually going to use all of these things.
Yeah, I did. And part of that's because I have 2 Gen Z children.
Okay.
And it surprises me that I think it was 28%, and I might get that figure slightly wrong, but around 28% of people working, so the working population will be Gen Z by the end of next year.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Which is kind of scary. And they are thinking differently, and I see that in my children. Like they're the first full-on, pure digital generation, and everything they do is digital, and their expectation of how it operates is so different. Like my children, they think famous people are YouTubers. Well, they are, right? They're YouTubers and TikTok stars, and who I've never heard of, but they actually trust these people more than they trust me, I think, at times. And over 50% of Gen Z are investing early before they're 21 years old, and that's in things like cryptocurrencies and kind of Bitcoin, that type of thing, rather than stocks, rather than in what we would have invested in traditionally. So they're here and engaging with financial services in some form, just not the ones that are the traditional players. And their expectations are extremely different.
Yeah. And how can those expectations be fulfilled then?
I think a lot of the reasons why people are not there yet is it is difficult in our industry. We have lots of data protection and privacy, and we're a little bit scared to step over the line because of all the kind of regulations and rules, and I totally get that. But I think we're also not using the data we have to make predictions. So everyone's kind of we've been talking about big data for years and years and years, another buzz type word. We're full of them here. But what are we actually using that data to do? Because a lot of businesses that I speak to, they don't have the right talent internally to actually start doing this. So things like data scientists, like I mentioned in the talk earlier, if you don't have data scientists or the right amount of data scientists in your organization, you're not going to be able to do this. And bringing the right tools in to be able to actually predict the future, putting that kind of crystal ball effect in place. And they're the 2 steps that a lot of people just haven't invested in. And for multiple reasons, a lot of them have got really legacy systems. So actually to collect the data might be in 5 different places, and then it tells you all different things every time you look at it. So actually to get the consistently good data, I was listening to their AI talk a moment ago, and I think the lady from Barclays and a couple of others were on stage talking about AI, and actually it's not going to solve for bad data. It just needs good data to feed in, and I think part of the problem is making sure that people still have that. And legacy systems don't help that situation.
No, I'm sure. Just finish up by giving me an insight into Tribe and the workplace structure and your kind of strategy around distributed teams, things like that.
Yeah, so Tribe operate globally. We have 3 main hubs in Europe. We have the UK, we have Lithuania, we have Moldova, and most of our teams sit within those areas, but we're actually starting to hire in other locations too across the world. Our customers are in America, so North America, South America. We have customers all across Asia. And Europe. So we're starting to have to operate in different time zones, and that adds quite a lot of complexity to how you recruit and different ways that you need to operate within the business, including language.
That's the challenge, isn't it? When you're growing, all these challenges come about. So what are you excited about where Tribe can go over the next few years?
I think Tribe have built a really good core. So their platform is exceptional. The technology that they build is really, really great. And what we're starting to see now is our customers put in a lot of volume through. So we're starting to see the hard work paying off, where the customers, it takes a while to embed the customers and make sure that we're ready to take that. And I think I'm really excited to see the scale over the next few years. I think Tribe, revenue-wise, have grown kind of 75 to 100% each year on year for the last few years, and we're expecting that to be even higher this year.
Look forward to speaking to you again. You can tell us more about that meteoric rise. Lynda Strutton, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks again to all our guests who took the time to come and speak with us here at Remote Stand at Money 2020 Europe. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please do like, follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you'd like to get in touch with the show, you can find us on all the usual social media channels or use our contact form on the website csuitepodcast.com. You can find me, I'm Debbie West, and my colleague Graham Barrett on LinkedIn. But for now, thank you so much and goodbye.